Hi, hey guys, welcome back to another week of me trying to achieve profitability. So yeah, this week I started a new funded account as mentioned in the last video, and this week was honestly pretty clean. I won't dilly-dally too much, so I'll just get straight into it. Alright, so since there was PMI today, I wanted to see if there was potential for a trade either before market open or after news hit. And on the high term, I saw a 4 fair value gap getting pushed through, with the weekly gap getting developed within the imbalance. Since the high term was in a bullish trend, I figured we could see price try to retest this overlapping level. Zooming into the low time, we get some confirmation of this bias too, with a bunch of low resistance liquidity to the south side. So right now it's just waiting for price to confirm this bias or just continue higher to seek more liquidity. And I decided to enter into this trade after price confirmed on the 5 minute that it broke past this 5 minute fair value gap, so it broke in structure. And price had some nice selling pressure on the macro, so I decided to hop into this trade too. And it was actually going very well actually. Price ran down after slowing for just a little bit, and I was initially thinking of placing my partial at the first LRL since it was an easy target to hit, but I decided to move my partial to the second LRL since the first one given me a negative RR. And because of that, I decided to place it at the second RR since I was confident in the down move. And though price started stalling after missing my TP by two fucking pips. And price finally decided to move up with some Jerome art to the upside, starting me out for a loss of 150. And my mistake today was targeting something that wasn't even guaranteed. Even if it was guaranteed, it would have been safer to go for the first LRL, especially after price started stalling. And I could have also trailed my stop loss to the partial and taken a full TP there, since it would have been around like 1.3 RR. And yeah, I was shooting for the stars with this trade, so that was my mistake. Okay, so currently we got price moving bullish with price just taking out some of the 4-hour highs. Because of the sweep, there was potential for a small pullback to sweep some source of liquidity. And there wasn't much in terms of high time frame balances, so looking at the low time frame, we did have some that were developed recently which we can base our trade off of. And I was just looking at these levels currently, price had just disrespected a 5 minute fair value gap and was also respecting the 15 minute fair value gap really nicely. And I wanted to wait to see if the new 5 minute fair value gap was developed. And if that was the case, then I could go for a long off the respect up to the recent prominent high. And I placed my entry for longs just above the recent LRL since I wanted to see a strong bullish macro move after price respected the imbalances. The price was pretty slow and choppy in my opinion, only getting random jumps out of nowhere. Like here where price just plummeted down for I don't even know what. But after price was moving bearish with price on the 5 minute developing a small candle within the 15 minute fair value gap and continuing to move bearish, I decided to place a limit order just below the recent low with some extra room, so if it got hit it would theoretically be a strong move. Though after price in my TP, price immediately bought up, and since I didn't like the power, plus price could still respect the 15 minute fair value gap, I exited the trade for a small loss of $70. I decided to go back to my original plan for going for longs, and I know that price could still respect the 15 minute fair value gap and continue higher, plus also LRLs to the buy side. And I really like the idea of longs, especially after so much sell side liquidity was swept. And price ended up coming up and hitting my entry, though price immediately shot down and touched me, even though I pulled out the forbidden hammer technique, but still no use against this gay ass man. So yeah, I lost 130 on that trade. I was still below my limit of 300 for today, so I was pretty good. I was down $211. So I would say my mistake today was just trading during shitty conditions and not walking away after that first trade. I still thought that bullish move was valid after price was confirming some bullish power. Also, jumping into shorts when I was more focused on longs initially was kind of risky, I would say. I thought of it as being more in the moment at the time since price was showing bearish, but since price was honestly feeling pretty 50-50, I should have just stuck to what I was more confident in. But yeah, that's about it for Tuesday. Pretty tough so far, but alright, I think I can pull it back. Alright, so today there was quite a few high time imbalances. The main one I saw was the 4-hour fair value gap, which was untapped at the moment, and also a 4-hour plus 1-hour fair value gap, which was already tapped into and respecting bearish. And there was a bearish SMT2, although it was on ES. Zooming into low time frame, I was mainly looking at these key levels, the 5 minute imbalance being the main one that I was watching. Price was respecting bearish after getting a clean tap in, so I was liking the shorts a lot more on this one. And I was just watching price develop with the low time frame imbalances getting respected for bearish and continuing lower. After I saw that the new 5 minute fair value gap was disrespected, I wanted to either see a retrace on the low time frame to the imbalance or to the newly formed lower time frame imbalance. And price would make more 1 minute imbalances, and with the bullish volume being so low, I decided to actually take the entry there because it was respecting. And price was being pretty kind today, moving down nicely. It took a little while, but price came down and hit my partial for a small win of $70. And after that, I moved my stop loss to break even. I was just waiting now since it was a lot safer since my stop loss was at break even. But yeah, price stalled for a little bit before finally coming up and hitting my stop loss for break even. So yeah, I ended up making $70 today. And my mistake today, I would say, I ended up seeing the 32 pips on my short block instead of the 10 pip stop loss. And me seeing 32 pips was like, oh, go 4 cons, because that's the usual amount I would risk for 32 pip stop loss. But in actuality, I could have risked, let's see here, 15! No wonder my partial was so small. Anyways, yeah, it was my first one, so I'll be more careful next time. Should make use of the risk calc more so these things don't happen. Yeah, it was a clean setup today and managed to cash that shit. Took a different entry style today. It was more of a snipe, so that worked out well in the end. I adjusted to how price was moving, so it was pretty clean. Alright, so hopping on the charts, price had retested back into the weekly gap with the high time showing pretty strong bearish order flow, and I was mainly waiting and watching to see how price develops since it was too early to tell yet how price would develop. And I was waiting and I saw a 5-minute inverse fair value gap get retested and respected for bearish. And with stronger bearish power coming in, I wanted to look for an entry on the lower time frame. And then on the 1 minute, it was similar to yesterday with some 1 minute fair value gaps being developed, and I saw a 3 minute fair value gap as well. Though with the strong bearish power, I decided to ignore that one and go for the 1 minute fair value gap that was more recent. And price ended up creating a low while retesting this level and respected the imbalance, and because of that I entered into this trade. And honestly with the trade it was pretty quick. Price ended up getting some nice bearish power and hit my TP for a win of $200. And yeah, today was pretty clean. I was confident in the bearish moves and it was aligned with the high time too, so yeah, overall it was a really nice trade. One thing I will say, I will look more into seek and destroy plays too, since there was a pretty nice move after my trade that my friend caught, and it occurred after price liquidated my trade if I was still in the trade, and it was a clean 1 candle move. So yeah, I just noticed that it's been happening a lot, so I reckon it's worth looking into. But yeah, clean trade today all around, so I'm happy with it. Alright, so today on the high time frame, the new weekly open gap had been inversed and retested with a respectful bearish, so I was overall feeling bearish today. And looking at the low time frame, price was pretty bearish as well, which was in line with the high time frame. Price just swept out a prominent low, so I could potentially see price retest higher levels. There were also LRLs to the buy side though, so if price broke through these levels, we could potentially see a reversal. Though I doubt that since price had just respected the new weekly open gap for bearish. I did see a 15-minute plus 5-minute fair value gap overlap above, which looked pretty high to be tapped for a macro move, but I figured it could be a seek and destroy move like from yesterday. And I ended up taking a bullish trade today actually with a target to the top of the LRLs, and I mainly took this trade because price had disrespected all the bearish confluences I had listed out and the body formed above, and because the candle body formed above, I figured it was a confirmation that it was a change in state delivery, and I placed a limit order at a nice overlap of imbalances, a 15-minute inverse fair value gap, a 5-minute fair value gap, and a 3-minute BPR. And I figured this would be a really good entry. The price came down pretty strongly and ended up tapping my entry, and initially it was looking pretty good. Price was holding at the entry level, and I figured that was the buying pressure coming in to stop the bearish pressure from pushing down. Although price ended up gaining really strong bearish power and pushed down, hitting my stop loss for a loss of $170. And today was pretty interesting. I was mainly trying out something that I recognized from looking back at my previous trades. It was just that at specific time I caught the same trade on different days, which were all continuation plays. And though the setup didn't occur today, I forced it and I ended up getting burned for it. And I failed to notice the bearish SMT develop on NQ as the lagging index, and I went against the high time frame, so that was my mistake. I made quite a few mistakes today, but that's alright. I upped my understanding of SMTs and I learned a lot from today. So yeah, that ends off this week. Hi guys, so pretty clean week honestly, pretty happy with how this week turned out. My mental was on point and I think that it's more of a matter of time and getting more market experience and ironing out these few mistakes I'm making before I achieve profitability. But otherwise I'm pretty happy with the progress I've made so far, and here are my stats for this week. So yeah, that's about it for this week. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.